Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Bechet, and this is the AAF Exchange, a podcast from the American Action Forum, where experts provide clear, data-driven insights into today's economic and domestic policy issues. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. On this episode of the AAF Exchange, the near and longer-term economic forecast and the new Federal Reserve, joining us to break this all down is Douglas Holtz-Eakin. Doug, thanks for joining us.
It is always a pleasure.
So, what's been on your mind recently?
Tariff refunds, or the lack thereof. I think it's just offensive how the administration is slow-walking returning these tariffs. If this was tax policy and there had been an error made, the Treasury would be sending you a check in a day. I mean, these are taxes. An error was made. They were unconstitutionally collected. Send them back. It's the 21st century last time I checked. These things were deposited electronically. No one walked in with a bag of coins and handed it to U.S. Customs and Border. Yeah. So they know where the account it came from. Send it back.
Right.
I view this as just ridiculous.
So, what justification are they using?
Well, it's more elaborate than what I just said,
right,
because
okay.
there are multiple kinds of tariffs, and only the AIPAs got struck down. So suppose I sent in some money that covered both my steel tariffs, 232, national security, and my AIPA. Now you do have to separate those somehow.
Unwind it a little bit.
But so you need some information. They set up a website to provide, people can go and provide the information. But now they're suggesting that everybody who wants tariffs back has to sue them first. Now, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, what?
That makes no sense to me. It's something they filed with the courts regarding the process of refunding the tariffs. And I just think it's all slow walking the reality, which is they were declared unconstitutional and give the money back.
Yeah.
By the way, while I'm on this rant, we had a 10% tariff. It was called AIPA. That was for trade deficits. And then we had a 10% tariff right now that's called Section, 122, right? That's balance of payments issue. Now we're going to have Section 301, 10% tariff, forced labor. It's the same tariff. They just keep coming up with different excuses to levy it.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. I mean, the lawsuit portion of this, it hurts small businesses the most, who,
of course,
we should be in favor of helping at every turn.
And in every other circumstance, they would say they are. And they would say they're the deregulatory administration. And they would say a lot of things. But the tariffs, as in all things, are their own animal.
Right.
And,
it's compounding.
It's just driving me crazy.
All right, let's talk about the economy, because that's been hot right now on a lot of people's minds as we head into the summer. What's the current state of the economy? Where do things stand right now?
So first quarter GDP growth was 1.6%. Not great, not terrible. Inflation's now running PCE price index 3.8%, core 3.3%. Unemployment rate's still 4.3%. Where does that growth come from? Very strong business sector, and the real-time stuff, the ISMs and other things we get, new orders for capital goods, all suggest the business sector's doing great. A lot of it's AI-driven, no question. And then there's the household sector, which has continued to spend, but not robustly. And we're starting to see some chinks, and I'm worried about the household sector. So what's the outlook? Well, it depends. How long does this war go on? That's going to determine. And that's really gets much worse the longer it goes. It's not twice as bad if it goes twice as long. It's 10 times as bad if it goes twice as long, because we hit this point where there's just not enough oil on the ground. The inventories are gone, and now the price spikes. So that's what's out there. And
right.
That's the urgency. You got to deal with that.
Yeah. So we jumped ahead. You jumped the gun a little bit, but I'm going to ask the question anyways, because Angela wants a good clip on this one.
I will do this.
So. All right. So looking ahead to the economic outlook for the second half of the year, what's the shift? What shifts do you see over the next 6 months?
So here's the good news scenario. Iran gets resolved quickly. From an economic point of view, that's unquestionably a good thing. What it means for national security, open question. Depends what the deal is. With that, you get sort of a restoration of more normal global oil prices, and with a bit of a lag. Gasoline comes down, but you're no longer worried about continual upward pressure. And so if you're the Fed, you don't have to worry as much about being restrictive. You can sort of take it easy. If you're the average household, you're not spending all your money on gasoline. And the household sector catches up with the business sector, and real wages start rising again. And the second half of the year could be easily 2.5-3% growth rate. I see no reason why we can't do that. Now, the trouble is, we should have done that last year. Last year, we grew at 2%, coming down from 2.4 in 2024, because every time things got going, the administration whacked the economy in the head.
Yeah.
I think they should not, because that's the other scenario. They whack the economy on the head. They come up with a prolonged negotiation with Iran that takes its toll. You impose the new tariffs at significantly higher rates than the 10% they've started with, and then you had a household sector this week. It starts going south. That's bad.
Yeah.
So
I mean, last year when we talk a lot about the economic outlook on this podcast. You did talk about we're on our word watch, recession watch. Are we still sort of?
I don't think so.
We think we're out of that territory?
I think we're out of that territory certainly for the moment. I mean, the AI spending has just been astonishingly strong. It rescued the economy last year. It continues unabated. And it's not like if you move the federal funds rate 25 basis points, you're going to stop it. I mean, it's going.
Yeah.
Other interest rate sensitive things will go down, and they already have. The housing sector tried to have a little recovery. Now it's over. It's not happening. We'll see.
Yeah, so you mentioned AI, and you talked about. I listened to your panel when you were out in California at the Reagan Forum, and you talked about how AI is impacting the economy and the business sector. What are the near impacts you see there?
So we see the big build of the infrastructure, and that's for real. It's spawned this sort of mini controversy over data centers and not in my backyard and all that. But putting that aside, that's real, but it's not quantitatively as significant as I think as people might suspect. That's a big construction boom. That's all there is to it. It has a lot of demand for equipment to go into it. It's the steel and the structures, so it has a lot of impact down supply chains, all of which is a big positive for the economy. No question about that. In the future, there's all this stuff about what will be the impact on work, and that's the wild card. But that's not as imminent, I think, as people believe. I think we are at least 4 years away from a significant change in the characteristics of hiring and firing based on AI.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, AI very much impacts, the digital marketing, digital social media world. And a lot of times I see it not as me versus AI. I see it as me learning to use AI in a helpful tool to being more efficient and being more productive at my job, which I know you love to hear.
I think, anyway, I think, let's not talk about Kyle today. I think framing it as the number of jobs that are going to be destroyed is all wrong. I think AI changes every job.
Yeah.
It does. And so it is a very significant development for that reason. But it will create some jobs. It'll modify other jobs. Some are going to go away. Like there are things that you're just going to have the AI do because it can do it faster. Is it easy to quantify that and get the timetable? No, it's just not.
Yeah.
But I'm heavily influenced by the rollout of the internet, all of the smartphones and their predecessors, the laptops and their predecessors, and that all took time to have it transformed the way we do. I mean, people on their phones all the time just wasn't a thing in 1990.
Right.
I promise you.
Right.
So it transformed life. But it didn't do it overnight.
Right. But does it seem like, you're a student of history, you're a student of economics, does it seem sort of like, a lot of people like to compare it to the Industrial Revolution type rapid change? Does it seem like that to you from an economics perspective, or?
No. I think the invention of powered industry, steam powered, and then, other sources of power is so much different than having human power. I mean, that was just a completely transformational moment. AI is mostly just faster. It's advanced computing, and it isn't smarter than humans. It just makes all the possible mistakes in its head in about a minute and a half, and then does the right one. And so it's just a matter of speed.
Gotcha.
So it's speeding up things, and that affects things. There's no question, but it's not the same. I think it's industrial revolution.
Interesting. Let's shift to the household sector, which you mentioned. What do you see happening there in the next few months?
I think that's the diciest part of the outlook, to be honest. There is no single household, so we get a lot of commentary about the so-called K-shaped economy, where the upper part is going up and the lower part is going down, sort of, big differences in different parts of the income distribution. I think there's something to that. We've certainly seen continued strength in luxury spending categories, cruises and the like. That's fine. We have seen overall like a big drop in the saving rate. It went from 5.5 to 2.6 in a year. I mean, so people are squeezed, and so I think the question is, can the sort of middle class hang on? I didn't love. We're getting an employment report on Friday. I didn't love the last one because average hourly earnings are growing slower than prices. That was the Biden problem. They went 2 years where inflation exceeded wage growth. That meant people went to work every day and got further behind. If we start getting into that territory, the household sector is going to be A, in trouble, and B, angry, very angry.
Yeah, and I mean, they're dealing obviously with a lot of stress with.
They're angry now. I mean, I don't want to. Don't mess with them anymore.
Yeah, let's keep that on the at a minimum.
That's on my watch list. I mean, it really is.
So I'll have to keep. I'm sure we'll keep an eye on that throughout the summer and see how summer travel and is impacted by all that as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hear about things about like people driving instead of flying, stuff like that. Yep. And I think it'd be, this summer maybe my family should drive to the beach and I'll fly.
Some Doug time. It's like the old images of the kids getting on, or the videos of the kids getting on the plane and their parents sitting in first class and they got to go back into coach class.
So I am taking my grandkids to Disneyland, but I'm not flying across the country with them.
You're just going to meet them out there. That seems like a good way to do things. All right, let's do a quick trivia question. In 2026, federal agencies have published roughly how much in total savings, and a bonus part is adding over X million in paperwork burdens.
This year,
yes,
calendar 2026, we've got about $6 billion in savings and 12 million paperwork hours.
So I have it as the 1 trillion mark for 2026.
Oh, that's the endangerment finding.
Yes.
That's just
so
outside of the endangerment finding.
Rodeo has us at 1.1 trillion.
Yeah, the endangerment finding is 1.1 trillion.
Yeah,
it's huge. It swamps everything.
Yeah. Right. So that's sort of why I wanted to ask this trivia question is because, I know that there's one big one is the cost savings, but prior to that, it was in the billions.
So I've been trying, as you know, I'm a big fan of the deregulatory efforts. And if you take out the endangerment finding, they're behind where they were in 2018. So in the second year.
Interesting.
They were more aggressive last time around, and I wish they would get more aggressive.
Yeah, is that so? So there's still things to there's still things to do, right?
Absolutely.
It's not because that they were so successful in the past that
Biden left plenty of work.
I was going to say, let's go back about 10 or 12 podcasts ago right. where we were still in the Biden administration. We were talking about how astonishing those numbers were.
They were so busy and so big. I mean, Jesus. So anyway, I've been mystified about this, why they haven't been more aggressive on the regulatory front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so because we heard a lot about the budgets and a lot about the what was it, 10 in and 1 out, or
1 in, 10 out.
Yeah, I got it backwards. But
they make claims periodically about that. But Dan Goldbeck follows this all the time, and one of the things they did, which doesn't get a lot of attention, is they basically said, okay, there are two kinds of regulations. One's we're going to count, and then stuff in DHS that has to do with border, ICE, customs. So if you do a rulemaking on the immigration front, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Overall, they've actually increased regulatory costs.
Yeah.
Take out, other than the endangerment, right? I mean, it's like $17 billion in non-endangerment reduction, $40 billion in essentially immigration-related costs. So
I mean, they've added 29 million hours of paperwork burdens.
Yeah.
That's not nothing.
No, that's real.
All right, so let's end by talking about the Fed, because we can't do an economic podcast and not talk about the Fed these days.
Let's talk about the Fed.
So its new chair, Kevin Warsh. What's the key? What key changes do you anticipate under the Warsh leadership?
So he has been vocal about a couple of things. Communications, and I think this comes first because it's the easiest. He thinks the Fed is talking too much and confusing people as a result. So when they release the statement, they're going to take out the forward guidance, is my bet. They're not going to give any hint about what happens in the next meeting. They're just going to say, this is what we did. And just stop, not talk about, we'll adjust policy and blah, blah, blah. So they'll take that out. He's not a big fan of the Survey of Economic Projections, and I can see why, because it's great coffee talk about sort of how many rate cuts people are projecting and how many people are above or below the median, but it's not useful for figuring out what's actually going to happen. It has proven to be completely unhelpful.
Right.
So I think that goes away. And he may have fewer press conferences. I don't think we're going back to the era of Alan Greenspan where it was just a black box and you were guessing all the time what they're up to. But I think he'll do less of that.
Yeah. So somewhere in the middle between.
Yeah. And so I that's all stuff that's sort of relatively easy to change. Then there's big stuff like the Fed balance sheet, which he believes should be dramatically smaller and is currently going up, not down. So that's something that he's got to get consensus. He's got to get the board on the same page as he's on, and then they'll do that. And then there's the wild card, which is he the inflation hawk he's been for decades, or is he a new kind of Fed chair who cuts rates at times you didn't expect? We'll see.
Yeah, and the building consensus part has got to be the most interesting part of all this for him, because Powell did a pretty good job of keeping everybody
till the very end.
But he did a pretty good job of keeping everybody on board,
which I think tells you how much work it was to keep them all on board earlier.
Yeah,
because when it fell apart, it really fell apart.
Yeah. He definitely a lot of sheep herding, or whatever metaphor or analogy you want to use there.
I think there's a mini industry of retrospectives on the Powell Fed now already. We've had papers commissioned already. I think that there's simply zero disagreement that he's a first-rate person, and there's essentially no disagreement that he did a remarkable job of defending the Fed as an institution and its independence. And then
wasn't always easy.
Then there's really mixed opinions on the end result of his stewardship. Like, they have been above the target for 5 years.
Yeah.
I think that's a negative.
Yeah.
And so how much weight you put in that sort of depends how you think about his legacy.
Right. We can Monday morning quarterback. Was he too slow to deal with inflation when it was transitory? All that stuff. But like you said, he defended the institution. So pretty good legacy.
Yeah. And
but 5 years is a long time to be above the 2% mark.
I think it impairs their credibility. I mean, when you look at inflation expectations, it doesn't center on 2; it centers on 3. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. No, to be fair, too, I mean, Congress has to take some of the blame for the inflation problem too. But,
absolutely.
Because I remember, but we were talking back in the Biden years when they were just running it way too hot.
2021 was just a huge policy error, both fiscal and monetary. Sometimes you just make every mistake. We made every mistake.
Yeah. All right. So more general, with all that being said, under this new chair, more generally, what should we expect from the Fed over the next few months?
I think we don't know what to expect, but I hope what we see is a continued attention being paid to getting to the 2% target, and not some weak-kneed, I don't want to start any unemployment. Let's let inflation go up. We've learned how hard it is to get inflation back down. It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. Don't let any more get embedded in the economy. I think that's their top challenge. And if we get to the end of the year and we've got inflation at the current 3.8 or lower, then that'll be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be something that we'll have to keep an eye on and keep talking about, I imagine, as the calendar moves on. But one last thing, and this might be the hardest question of all, who wins the NBA championship?
Oh, I think the Spurs still have to be considered the
Even
favorite.
After last night?
Yeah.
Brunson taking over?
The Spurs are talented. They're deep. They're deeper than people appreciate. I think it's the biggest thing that they have so many young bodies who can play defense, and as a result, I think they win in a series. They wear people down and things like that, but they're young. And every now and then they take their eye off the ball, and you saw it last night.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing going in the Knicks' favor right now is they are an experienced team, and with a lot of players that have made deep runs. So
they're mentally better. There's no question. They're tough. They're on a great run, and they believe in themselves unbelievably.
And you played for Thibodeau. You got to have some resilience in your system. So, anyways, Doug, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Tune back in for our next episode, where our experts will provide clear, data-driven insights into today's economic and domestic issues. I'd also encourage you to check out any of the links in our show notes, and also follow us on social media to learn more about AAF. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play.